It started on a Tuesday evening, sometime around 6:30 p.m. I remember the time clearly because I had just finished setting the table for dinner when I heard my daughter Lily giggling in the living room. She's 6, sweet, shy, a little bit of a daydreamer, but not the type to talk to herself, let alone laugh aloud alone. "Lily," I called from the kitchen. "Dinner in 5." No response. I walked over to the living room, wiping my hands on a towel. The TV was off, no music playing, just Lily sitting cross-legged on the floor facing the wall, specifically the spot where an antique mirror used to hang before we donated it months ago. The wall was completely bare now, just dull beige paint in a faint outline where the mirror's frame used to rest. She was whispering. At first I thought maybe she was singing a song under her breath, like kids sometimes do. But then she paused, nodded, said, "I told you I can't come play at night. Mommy says it's dangerous outside." My stomach dropped. "Who are you talking to?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. Lily turned her head and smiled, as if I'd just asked the silliest question in the world. "The man in the mirror." There was no mirror. I crouched down beside her, scanning her eyes for a hint of make-believe. "Sweetie, we don't have a mirror there anymore, remember?" She pointed to the blank wall, utterly serious. "He's still there. He says he lives in the cracks." I looked again. The wall was unremarkable. No cracks, just paint. "You're playing, right?" I asked carefully. She shook her head and whispered, "He doesn't like when you say that." That night I tucked her in earlier than usual. She didn't protest. I thought maybe it was just a weird game. Kids do that, don't they? Invent friends, make up stories. I tried to forget the way she said he lives in the cracks. I tried to forget the way she avoided looking at the wall once I turned the lights off. At 2:47 a.m., I woke up to the sound of tapping. Soft, rhythmic. It was coming from the living room. 3 taps. A pause. Then 3 more. I crept out of bed, heart thudding in my chest. The hallway was dark. The house was quiet except for that sound, tap, 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 from the wall where the mirror used to be. When I turned the light on, the tapping stopped. Lily was sitting on the couch, wide awake, staring at the wall. "I told him to stop," she whispered, "but he says it's his house too." The next morning, I tried to make sense of what I'd seen, or thought I'd seen. Maybe Lily had a bad dream. Maybe I did. Maybe the tapping was the house settling, or the wind. I clung to those rational thoughts as I prepared breakfast. But when I called Lily down, she didn't come. I found her curled up in her bed, eyes wide open, blanket clutched to her chest. "Did he bother you again?" I asked gently, sitting beside her. She didn't speak. She just pointed to her closet door. I walked over and opened it slowly. Nothing inside but clothes and toys. But there, on the wall behind her, hanging dresses, were scratches, deep ones. 4 jagged lines, like made by a hand with long, sharp nails. I knelt closer. They were fresh, the drywall still flaked at the edges. I stared at them, trying not to panic. Did you do this, sweetheart?" "No," she whispered. "He did." That was the moment I decided to take action. I called a pediatric therapist that afternoon and scheduled an appointment. The earliest they could fit her in was next Tuesday, a week away. I didn't know if I could wait that long. That evening, I sat Lily down on the couch and tried to talk to her like an adult. "Can you tell me more about the man?" She hesitated. "He wears a long coat, and his eyes are gone. Just black holes." I felt my stomach twist. "Where does he come from?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "He says he was stuck in the mirror, but when he threw it away, he got out." My blood ran cold. That mirror, it was old, from an estate sale. I'd bought it on impulse, but always hated the way it made the room feel colder, darker. I'd assumed it was just my imagination. "What does he want?" I asked. Lily looked up at me with serious, haunted eyes. "He wants me to come with him. He says if I say yes, he'll take me to his house, in the mirror world." I didn't know what to say. My logical mind was screaming that this was a child's fantasy, but something about her voice, so steady, so sure, made it hard to dismiss. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up on the couch with a mug of coffee and a knife on the table. Silly maybe, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. At exactly 3:03 a.m., the hallway light flickered on by itself. And then I heard Lily's door creak open. The soft creak of Lily's door felt deafening in the silence of the house. I stood frozen, unsure whether to rush toward her or stay put. Every instinct in me screamed to move, but my legs were heavy, like wading through molasses. Then I heard it, footsteps. Not quick and pattering like Lily's usual ones. These were slow, deliberate, one step at a time. "Lily," I called out, barely above a whisper. No answer. I grabbed the knife from the table and forced myself into the hallway. The light flickered again, casting long, warped shadows across the floor. Her door was wide open now. I peeked inside. Empty. Panic surged through me like a tidal wave. I turned back toward the living room and there she was, standing in front of the bare wall again. Talking. Her small voice was steady. "No, I can't go. I told you I don't want to." Then she paused. "But I miss Mommy too." My heart cracked. I didn't know what that meant. I was her mom. I called her name louder this time. "Lily." She turned slowly, her face pale and her eyes unfocused, like she'd been hypnotized. "He says he can show me Mommy." I knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, I am Mommy." She blinked. "Not you, the other Mommy." The room suddenly felt wrong, like the air had thickened. "What other Mommy?" "The one in the mirror. She cries a lot." Behind her the wall rippled, just for a second, like heat waves rising from pavement. I blinked hard. It was flat again. I pulled Lily into my arms and carried her to my room, locking the door behind us. She fell asleep quickly, almost unnaturally so, curled beside me. But I couldn't sleep. At 4:11 a.m., I heard scratching on the bedroom wall. A not random scratching, writing. I turned on my phone flashlight and gasped. 4 words had been carved just above the headboard, ragged, uneven. "She's not your mom." The words above my bed stayed there the entire next day. No matter how hard I scrubbed, soap, sponge, even bleach, they wouldn't fade, like they weren't carved on the paint, but into the house. "She's not your mom." Lily didn't seem fazed by it. She hummed as she ate her cereal, chatting about the drawings she wanted to make later, like nothing was wrong. Like a strange sentence hadn't appeared inches above where she slept. I considered calling the police. But what would I say? That a ghost vandalized my bedroom wall? Instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I drove across town to the old thrift store where I'd bought the mirror. The place had a musty smell, a mix of wood polish and mothballs. A frail man behind the counter raised an eyebrow when he saw me. "Still got the mirror?" he asked without prompting. I froze. "What?" He nodded. "The tall one, black wood, oval frame. You bought it back in January." My throat tightened. "No, I gave it away." His eyes grew dark. "Should have broken it instead." I tried to press him. "Why? What was wrong with it?" He leaned in close. His breath smelled like rust. "That mirror was never supposed to reflect people. It was made to trap them." I left immediately. That night, I moved Lily's mattress into my bedroom again. I didn't care if it was cramped. I needed her close. She seemed calmer near me anyway. But at exactly 3:03 a.m., I woke up gasping. Not from a dream, from a sound. Crying. It wasn't Lily, it was coming from the wall. Muffled, like someone sobbing on the other side of a thick pane of glass. I reached for my phone. Its screen was black. Dead battery. Even though it had been at 80% before bed. I turned on the lamp and froze. Lily wasn't beside me. I shot up, heart pounding. "Lily!" No answer. I tore open the bedroom door, calling her name as I rushed through the hallway. She was in the living room again, facing the same wall. Only this time, her hand was pressed flat against it. "What are you doing?" I shouted. She didn't turn. "She's trapped," she whispered. "She wants me to let her out." I pulled her away, but for just a second, as I dragged her back, I saw her reflection on the wall. Except it didn't move with us. It stayed, and it smiled. I slammed the door to my bedroom shut, locking it behind us. Lily clung to my side, sleepy but frightened. I sat her on the bed and checked her arms, her face, making sure she was really her. "Are you okay?" I whispered. She nodded slowly. She was crying. She said she's me. That word again, she, not he, not the man Lily used to speak to. Now it was another Lily. I brushed her hair back from her face. "Sweetheart, do you remember what the man looked like? The one from before?" She frowned. "He's quiet now. He says she's in charge now." That night I didn't sleep. I sat against the wall, staring at the door, listening. The crying stopped around 4 a.m., but something worse took its place. A voice. It was soft at first, almost like static in my ear. Then it sharpened into words. "She doesn't belong with you." I stood up and backed away from the wall, pulling Lily with me. "Leave us alone," I shouted. The house fell silent again. The next day, I dug through my garage for the last photograph I had of the mirror. I remembered snapping one for an online listing back when I tried to sell it. When I found it, the photo chilled me. Because in the reflection of the mirror, not fully visible, but just enough, was a dark silhouette. Tall, head tilted, like it had been watching me even then. That evening, I sat Lily down with crayons and asked her to draw the other mommy. What she sketched made my skin crawl. It was me, same hair, same eyes, but the mouth was too wide, the teeth too sharp, and the eyes were just empty, black holes, like the man she used to see. "She says she wants to live in our world now," Lily said as she colored the eyes darker. "She's tired of watching." I decided to stay at a hotel for the night, just one night away. Somewhere normal, somewhere with mirrors on every wall if needed. Because maybe, just maybe, she couldn't follow there. But when I turned to pack our things, Lily was staring into the bedroom wall again, smiling and whispering, "She says you can't leave, not until you know the truth." I yanked Lily away from the wall so fast she stumbled backward. Her smile vanished, replaced by confusion, and then anger. "Mommy, that hurt!" I held her shoulders tightly. "We're leaving, now!" She stared at me blankly for a moment. Then in a voice too calm for a 5-year-old, she said, "You can't run from your reflection." The sentence didn't sound like her, not even close. I threw clothes into a bag, grabbed our IDs, and rushed her into the car. I didn't even lock the front door. I just drove. It wasn't until we were halfway to the hotel that I started to breathe normally. The hotel room was plain, white sheets, beige carpet, full-length mirror across from the bed. I hesitated when I saw it, but forced myself to be logical. This was just glass, not some cursed portal. But Lily wouldn't look at it, not once. She kept her eyes on the wall, her back to the mirror even while she brushed her teeth. "She doesn't like mirrors like that," she whispered. "Why?" "Because they don't lie." That night, Lily fell asleep quickly. I watched her chest rise and fall, finally at peace. But at exactly 3:03 a.m., something cold brushed my ankle. I jolted up. The room was pitch black. Then I heard it, breathing, not Lily's, not mine. Heavy, wet, right beside the bed. My phone wouldn't turn on again. I reached for the lamp, but the mirror glowed. A soft, silvery shimmer pulsed across it, like moonlight on water. And in the reflection, I saw it. Me, standing by the bed. Except I wasn't standing. I was sitting. So who was that? The reflection smiled. Then it leaned forward and whispered through the glass, "You took what's mine." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure pressed its face to the inside of the mirror and cracks began to form around its head, webbing outward like shattered ice. I grabbed Lily and backed away, heart pounding. The mirror suddenly went dark, silent. We left the hotel an hour later. I didn't care where we went. I just knew we had to keep moving. But as we got into the car, Lily turned back and stared at the hotel window. "She says she remembers now," she whispered. "Remembers what?" I asked. "She was your daughter first." Her words hit me like ice water down my spine. She was your daughter first. I couldn't drive. I sat behind the wheel, hands trembling, staring into the dark. My brain struggled to form a response. "Lily, what do you mean?" "She said you forgot her. You left her there," she mumbled, curling into her seat. "I never had another daughter," I whispered, but the words tasted like a lie. Back in my 20s, I'd had a miscarriage, a memory I'd buried so deep it hardly felt real anymore. I never told anyone the full truth, not even my parents. I was too ashamed, too overwhelmed. I had tried to move on, to pretend it never happened. But what if something didn't forget? As we drove to a friend's house in the next town over, an old college roommate who owed me a favor, I kept glancing at Lily in the rearview mirror. She looked like herself, but her eyes darted toward the window every few minutes, like she was expecting someone to follow. That night, I told my friend Kara everything. Well, almost everything. I left out the talking reflections and bleeding walls. Just said someone was stalking us, that I needed a safe place. She let us stay in her guest room. I didn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard whispering. Lily was curled up on the mattress, fast asleep. The sound was coming from the hallway. I crept to the door and opened it a crack. Down the hall, Kara's hallway mirror was fogging up from the inside, slowly, like someone breathing on the glass from within. Then letters began to form. Not scraped, not scratched, just appearing. "You don't remember her name." I slammed the door and locked it. Lily stirred awake. "She's sad now," she said drowsily. "She says you tried to erase her." I sat beside her, my hands shaking. "Do you remember her name?" Lily asked, her voice smaller than usual. My throat felt dry. There had been a name, one I only whispered to myself in hospital rooms and sleepless nights a decade ago. "Emma," I said. The lights flickered. And from the hallway mirror, I heard a child's voice answer softly, "Mommy." The moment I said her name, Emma, the air in the guest room shifted. Heavy, thick. Lily sat up suddenly, her eyes wide, not with fear, but recognition. "She's happy now," she said. "You finally remembered." I wanted to believe this was all some twisted dream, that I was overtired, delusional. But deep down, I knew better. Memories I'd locked away began to bleed through the cracks in my mind. 10 years ago, I was alone, scared, pregnant with a child I hadn't planned for. I'd picked the name Emma during a thunderstorm, whispering it to my swollen belly, praying for strength I didn't have. When the miscarriage happened, I didn't even bury her. There was no funeral, no closure, just sterile hospital lights and a silent ride home. And now she was back. Through mirrors. Through Lily. That morning I told Kara I had to go. I didn't say why. She didn't press. I think she saw the panic in my eyes. Instead of going home, I drove to my old apartment, the one I lived in when I was pregnant with Emma. It was still there, still gray, still crumbling at the edges. I buzzed until someone let me in. The stairs creaked the same way they used to. I stood outside the door to Unit 3B, heart pounding. A man opened the door. He looked surprised, then cautious. "I used to live here," I blurted out. "A long time ago. Can I just look at one room? It's important." He hesitated, but finally nodded. He let us inside. The apartment had changed, the furniture, the walls, the colors. But when we reached the back bedroom, I nearly collapsed. The wallpaper was peeling exactly where I remembered. The small crack in the corner still jagged like a scar. And, most terrifying of all, the mirror closet was still there. I walked toward it slowly. Lily hung back watching. I touched the handle. Cold. Too cold. The door creaked open. Inside the closet, a child's drawing was taped to the back wall. Faded. Forgotten. But unmistakable. A stick figure with brown hair. And beneath it, written in a child's shaky letters, Emma's room. Suddenly, Lily gasped. I turned around. She was staring at the mirror. And in its reflection, standing beside me, was a little girl. Not Lily. Someone else. Smiling. Waiting. Emma's reflection didn't move like a real child. She didn't blink. Didn't shift her weight. She just stood there, staring at me with a smile that wasn't quite right. Lily didn't speak. She didn't move. She stood frozen by the doorway as if some invisible pressure held her in place. My heart thundered in my chest as I turned back toward the real closet. It was empty. No child. But in the reflection, Emma's hands slowly lifted and pressed against the inside of the mirror. The glass rippled like water. Then came her voice, soft and echoing, as if from the bottom of a deep well. Why did you leave me? I couldn't breathe. I didn't, I whispered, my throat tight. I lost you. I didn't want to. The light overhead flickered. Emma's head tilted, and her voice deepened, distorted. You forgot me. Tears welled in my eyes. I didn't forget. I couldn't. Suddenly the mirror cracked, just a single line from top to bottom, like a wound splitting open. And behind the crack, more whispers bled through. Dozens of voices, children, laughing, crying, screaming. I staggered back. Lily spoke at last. She wants to come back, Mommy. What do you mean? She says this isn't her place. She says she was meant to be me. The temperature in the room dropped so suddenly that I could see Lily's breath. She says I'm just a shadow. No, I said firmly, grabbing Lily's hand. You're my daughter. From the mirror, Emma frowned. Her eyes darkened. She pressed both palms against the glass, and it began to fracture further, like ice under pressure. Then she opened her mouth wide, too wide, and let out a sound that didn't belong in this world. A sound like metal tearing, like wind howling through the bones of an abandoned house. The light bulb exploded. The mirror burst into shards. I threw myself over Lily, shielding her as glass rained down. And then, silence. When I looked up, the mirror was gone. Not broken. Gone. Only the frame remained, empty. I scooped Lily into my arms and ran. But as we reached the door, I saw one last thing. A tiny handprint on the inside of the frame. We didn't go back home. We didn't go to Kara's. We just drove. Lily clutching my arm, me watching every reflective surface like it might open up and swallow us whole. My mind raced with one unbearable question. Was Emma trying to replace Lily? I didn't know what terrified me more, losing Lily or the idea that somewhere, somehow Emma believed she had been cheated out of life. We checked into a roadside motel. It was old, the kind with flickering vacancy signs and stained carpets. But it had what I needed, no mirrors. Or so I thought. In the bathroom, there was a warped piece of tin where the mirror had once been. I stared at it, heart pounding, until I was sure it was just metal. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She kept mumbling in her dreams, twisting under the covers. I sat by her side, running my hand through her hair. And then she opened her eyes. Not slowly, not sleepily, abruptly. And when she spoke, it wasn't her voice. You named her. I froze. She never got a birthday. She never got to play. You gave it all to the next one. Stop, I whispered. This is my daughter. You don't belong here. But Lily, or the thing inside her, sat up. She's borrowed time, it hissed. I've waited long enough. Lily's eyes rolled back, and she collapsed into my arms. I sobbed, rocking her, calling her name. Moments passed before her eyes fluttered open again. Really hers this time. "Mommy," she whispered. I'm here. I'm here." Then she said something that crushed me. "She's not going to stop." The motel room felt colder, even without any broken glass or shadowed corners. I realized then, Emma didn't just want to be remembered. She wanted to be born. To take back what she believed was hers. And somehow she had found a way to wear my daughter like a coat when the veil between worlds thinned. I had no idea how long I had. But I knew this. I had to choose. Let the past haunt us forever. Or find a way to put it to rest. Desperation clawed at me like a living thing. I couldn't lose Lily. Not to a ghost, not to a memory twisted by pain. I searched every old book I could find about spirits, mirrors, and lost children. Late at night, I scoured forums, desperate for answers. Everyone's stories were different, but one thing kept surfacing. Mirrors aren't just reflections. They're gateways. Emma was trapped, caught between worlds, using Lily as a bridge to come back. I called Kara, begging for help. Together we planned. We needed a ritual. One to sever Emma's hold on Lily, to close the gateway. That night we gathered candles, salt, and a locket I had kept all these years. The only thing I had of Emma, a small silver charm engraved with her name. Lily was asleep in the guest room of my new apartment, a place carefully cleared of all mirrors, covered windows, everything reflective. Kara and I began the ritual, chanting words I barely understood, placing the locket on Lily's chest. I watched Lily's breathing deepen, her little hands clenching and unclenching. Then silence. The air thickened. Suddenly the temperature plunged. And there, on the wall opposite the window, appeared a faint outline. A face. Emma's face. Sad, angry, hurt. She whispered, "Let me in." "No," I said, voice firm despite the tears streaming down my face. "You're not coming back." The room shook. The candles flickered wildly. But slowly the outline began to fade. Emma's voice turned to a scream filled with centuries of sorrow. And then nothing. The room was still. Lily stirred, opening her eyes. She smiled and whispered, "Thank you, Mommy." For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. But deep inside, I knew one thing was true. Emma's story wasn't over. Days passed like a fragile dream. Lily laughed again, played again, her bright eyes free from shadows. I breathed easier. But sometimes, late at night, I still caught her talking to someone invisible, whispering secrets I couldn't hear. One evening, I found her standing quietly in the dim light of the living room, staring at the blank wall where the old mirror once hung. "Who are you talking to?" I asked gently. She turned, eyes clear but serious. "Emma says she's sorry." "Does she want to come back?" My voice was barely a whisper. "No," Lily smiled softly. "She said she's tired. She just wants me to remember." I nodded, feeling a chill. Because even though the mirror was gone, even though the ritual seemed to work, the past wasn't so easily erased. Emma wasn't a ghost I could banish. She was a memory, a scar that lived between worlds. And in every reflection, in every glass, there would always be a trace of her. I realized then the truth I'd been avoiding. Some things never leave us. Some shadows are part of who we are. And some mirrors, no matter how carefully you cover them, still hold a story waiting to be told. As I tucked Lily into bed that night, I looked at the dark window pane where a faint silhouette seemed to watch us. Not threatening, not angry, just waiting. Waiting for the next time a name is whispered, a past remembered, and a story begins again.